Good afternoon. My name is Bahman Yazdanfar, and this is Turnaround, the weekly show brought to you by my colleague John Hardy and I to discuss different elements of the human nature when it comes to the dealing and interaction with each other in the environments such as organization, institutions, or government or private business, as well as small as a small circle of the family. And to figure it out over the last 6-7 months, we haven't get anywhere so far, but we're trying to figure it out how we can overcome some of those habitual or bad habits that we have, and in order to develop progress or better our interaction with each other. Last week, as I mentioned, John and I, between two shows, usually we have very hefty debate about this issue out of the camera for hours, and then again we don't get anywhere, so we bring the residual of that to this show. Last week we were
certain commitment to the audience,
we want to
absence.
see if we get some sort of feedback from you, the audience. Last week, John and I we were discussing about the issue. Which issue was the main issue that last we left unresolved?
No idea.
You have no idea. It is so many
Well,
things.
no, I have a vague notion, but nothing close enough to actually being able to articulate.
Articulate.
I try
That
to
means you
clear
forgot.
I
That
try to
means you
clear my
forgot.
mind after each show
So
to keep
something
myself totally
happened
fresh.
on the weekend that really wiped out your memory. so,
As many weekends, there was nothing particularly.
Yes. But if I recall, we were talking about the interaction or reaction rather of the public as a whole, at least in the environment like North America, especially in Canada, toward the outsider. Whether or not, if they succeed, they have certain point of view and how they deal with them by putting them down or finding an excuse that it was a luck or not. And or if they don't succeed, blame them for their lack of ability. That we that was where we left.
And the thing was, we were just before the show, we were talking about the basketball game, or I was mentioning the basketball finals.
You're not
yesterday.
me. I don't talk about this kind of issue.
No, but it's an interesting analogy because let's say in Golden State, we had, it was Golden State versus Cleveland. And Golden State, the person who was just super hot is this fellow Curry, and then Cleveland, it was Irving. Anyways, the difference is between one, and of course, LeBron James, played brilliantly towards the end and, really pulls it together, but he's that's a given. Okay. But in the case, let's say, of Curry, here was the situation where he's hitting three-pointers from the outside consistently, beautifully. He's literally just the key to that offense at that moment. There's a particular shot that comes up, it's less than 5 minutes. It's exactly the shot, the position where he always gets it, right?
Okay.
This one didn't go in, right? And then after that, they're scrambling. He's trying again. This time he misses altogether, which for him is unbelievable, right? So in other words, he's phased. Now he's not hot anymore. And what you could feel was that as he hit through, shot up that ball, everybody in that stadium, and it was Golden State, basically was expecting it to go in. The trajectory was perfect. It just felt like it was going to go in, and it didn't, right? And then, of course, everything goes the other way, and now, Irving gets his, not nearly as elegant, as a shot as Curry's, which are perfect, but the game goes the other way, and that's it, right? And I was just thinking, you take a look at Curry in that situation. People say, he froze under pressure. No, that shot that he shot was perfect. That it's like whether it goes in or not is almost like a matter of like a destiny. It's almost like this energy field that's going to determine it one way or another. And if it goes for you, you're a god. And if it doesn't, you're a goat, right? Totally. At that moment, you're the guy it's all on you.
These are the only two options. There is
the
no
only two
middle
options.
ground.
And I think this is, in a way, the reason I'm mentioning this is the existence of the outsider. Is the outsider is outside either way. So the crowd loves him, the crowd hates him. In a way, it doesn't matter.
But there is no God situation for the outsider, as we discussed. I disagree with that.
No.
Because even if you achieve something to that level, high level, Still, they want either get something out of you.
Oh no, it's only good till the next time.
Oh yeah.
No, exactly. And so the thing is that for that outsider, very few people are going to, now here it's because of talent or whatever, but very few people are going to be placed or willing to place themselves in these key moments where everything depends on them, right? Most people basically live their lives really trying to get the greatest return with the least amount of risk. That's what they're really doing. You know, they like to people like to put a nice gloss on their lives, but that's what they really do.
But there is no guarantee if it's not risky by itself.
No, but what I'm saying is that's what basically people have the
perception of the
that's
not
what they're
risky,
trying
yes.
to do is not take risk.
Yeah.
And the thing then is, in the process, what's happening is that when you think you're winning, you're actually absolutely the loser, because you will never be at that point, the magic point, which is the only point that matters. Because you look at that whole game, I mean, yeah, there's back and forth, lots of movements, but there's a critical moment. And the very fact that he participated in that critical moment already is so far beyond, right? And I think this is the difference, in a sense, for the outsider and the rest. Is the rest essentially are kind of in this kind of soup where they've become so...
Who?
Oh, I mean, whether it be the trooper, the players, everybody.
Okay.
They're basically, in a sense, even those who are controlling the game are the victims of the game, and what they can't help but do. Like I, for instance, look at people who become, very wealthy. You look at them, over time. And, people say self-made, but very often self-made, it's not self-made as such. They played the game, they did it right,
Let's
whatever
assume
it
it is self-made.
But let's just say, but there is no such thing as self-made anyways, right?
Even we assume there
Right.
is, but
what ends up happening is that as time goes on, that money now starts to control them. They start to define themselves by that money. They start to be very nervous about spending that money, giving that
losing
money.
the money.
Losing,
yeah.
even when it's totally irrational, they've got so much that it doesn't make any sense. And yet somehow or other, that money, the longer it stays with them, it now really becomes part of their identity.
The
right?
same as fame.
Yeah. And it's just like, I guess, like a drug, in the sense that, imagine with heroin, I haven't tried heroin, but let's just say like a drug, that from what anyways, from what I understand of it, is that in the beginning you experience this incredible high, and then eventually it's getting to the point where you're just taking it to basically stave off the hellish withdrawal that would come otherwise, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or speed is like this too. And I think all of these things are narcotics that way, and that the entire game is really set up as a kind of drug pushing, where everybody is sucked in to wanting this one thing, that once they get it, basically, no longer is it going to cause them pleasure. The only thing will be the loss of it will actually cause them great pain. And so now they're living in the negative. They're trying to hold on. And when you're ever trying to hold on, that's no life at all. You lose, right? So eventually, in the beginning, it's still, the troopers who are trying to hold on, they're afraid of losing their position, they're afraid of not being in the crowd, standing out, etc. But even the players who are winning, once they've won, now, as time goes on, they're trying to hold on to their position. So they're also moved into a fear position.
So the major differences between outsider and the rest would be the outsider is looking and searching for that moment to seize, that moments that we were talking about, like a game that you said in the basketball or any other in the actual life. I mean, they seize the moment that kind of the satisfaction come through. And then
but they're not after the satisfaction.
No, they're not they are after, but they seize those moments in a sense that is the essence of the life for them.
Well, and also because they're available, right? Everybody else is basically, when it comes to those moments, is going to hedge their bets. They're not going to.
Oh yes, because of the safe environment that you said they are
Precisely.
protected. Right?
And then, for instance, why do you have an education? Why do you put you put your kids in school so that they'll be safe? You want them to be safe from what? Failure. But ultimately safe from risk, safe from life. You put them into environments. So, for instance, let's say you raise your children in a rich neighborhood. The other children there, they're at the clubs in the summer, they're up at the cottages, they're raised by nannies, etc. In the end, you're absolutely dooming them to being incredibly predictable narcissistic, boring people. For the most part, the odd one will break free. But most people, under those circumstances, subjected to that stimulus, it will absolutely bring the worst out of them. So the joke is that what do they end up doing with their wealth? They end up cursing their children. It's almost like an amazing irony, the whole thing. Whereas let's say, for instance, for me, just like all outsiders, I got taken down hard, right? What is it that I really wanted for my children was, a wonderful life, etc., protect them from the game and everything. I remember my little girl, I was a builder, it was a beautiful house. She had her own walk-in closet. She had like literally 2 rows of dresses, and like literally 50 dresses. It was ridiculous. I don't know how many it was.
At the age of 10.
10, 3 or 4.
3, oh, okay.
That's what I mean. Oh, no, forget. And, I remember her, ordering me out of the house, etc. I didn't leave, but it certainly, he certainly, was not in any way sort of, she must be obeyed, etc., the little thing. Anyways, events happened, and then all of that disappeared, right? Everything. And as a result of that, she ended up having to adjust. She changed. She became a different kind of person, a much, much better person, right? And as a result of events which are the absolute opposite of anything that any normal parent would actually plan for their child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, having gone through all of this, you just, kind of realize it's completely upside down. Everything, everybody, all of us are going in the wrong direction in the game until either we wake up by ourselves, which is
Hit
very
our
rare,
head to the stone.
or something slams us,
yeah.
right? Same for you. You got slammed hard in life at an early point around, when you were in Afghanistan.
No, I am still being heated every day.
No, exactly. But for instance, that was probably the ones that changed the course of your life.
Well, they change your perspective, of course. And as you said,
because you can't participate in the same way anymore.
Not only that, it's just. Let me put it in the terms of the medical term. I mean, everybody can go in front of computer and put a picture of the body's anatomy. And so, there is a stomach, there is a spleen, this is the kidney, this is that. But until you actually stay on the operating room and open a abdomen and see this convoluted, because it's not as colorful as the picture you see on there, because everything is red. Different shades of the red, pink, red, dark red, and then you have to go your hand through it. And then you have different perspective of the human life. Why? Because when you are outside of that room, you see as a human as a form of do I like him, or I don't like him, or I hate him, at something, some object, which we discussed the other night. But when you understand, when that event happened to you or to me or to anyone else, and everybody, I am pretty sure, happened, it is just a matter of how awake are you to understand what happened. I'm pretty sure everybody has in his or her life those moments.
Actually, no.
I think they do, but they are not as awake as they understand it.
Think of the people you grew up with, right? Right, you came up from an affluent background to some extent.
It was middle class.
Mine was middle class, but then sort of went up, over
you
time.
were lucky.
No, I mean, whatever they, went up to become even more.
Mine went down.
Yeah, exactly, perhaps. I mean, but I'm thinking about, let's just say, the people in my family, the people who I grew up with. Absolutely not. No, I can't think of any of them having moments where they laid it on the line, where they really, really, put it all on the line. Absolutely not. They were so beautiful.
Are you sure that nothing happened, or nothing they can recall because they didn't pay attention?
No,
that is my
part of it
difference.
Was that, for instance, you laid it on the line. For instance, you were doing operations, which was probably here, you would have been thrown in jail for. But over there, it was routine. It was more of a sort of like the Wild East. It's like whatever.
No, do we have anyone? Yes,
any volunteers?
Extra pair of hands. Yes, extra pair of hands.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Bon courage.
Yeah.
So the thing about it is, you stepped up to the plate to do that, right? To actually have that experience, you took the initiative. Same thing. Let's say when I was in Seguin, when for instance, when the all else is breaking loose, and there's the demonstration of the workers, and then the shop steward asked me, will I speak to them, right?
Yes, well, I personally have a tendency to just be attracted toward those
but at
situations.
that moment, first of all, you have to have placed yourself even for that possibility. Just like Curry to make that shot, you have to be in that position, and then two, you have to
Initiative. You
have to basically say yes.
Yes, you have to have
Right?
initiative to participate.
To participate.
Yeah.
And the thing is, that's the difference. Very, very few people either come to that spot or even same thing, like that guy who, you remember, that landed the plane on the Hudson River?
Yeah, yes,
right?
yes.
And everybody's going, oh, unbelievable. And the thing is, for him, how
Well-
he was experiencing it was, here's a guy at that moment.
Decided to go a little bit off the.
Well, no, at that moment, he basically is being who he is. It's not. He's not like being a hero. He's not saying I'm going to be. It's not the way that we see it. It's a guy who at that moment knows what he has to do and does it. I think for those people it's that simple, and it doesn't diminish it in any way, but it's that simple. And I think that's what it is. They've got that crystal clarity, and it's the same thing at that moment. It's very simple, but it's not really a choice, because you know that the other choice is just not acceptable. You have to go ahead. Life is this way, and whatever is the other way is
Are you
failure.
suggesting the other people, like troopers or the players, don't have that?
No.
Don't have.
They do everything in their power to protect themselves from being in a position where that's going to happen.
You know, it reminds me of because you said the protection. It reminds me where I was born in Iran. I'm pretty sure here they have a lot of superstition as well. But over there is certain superstition that when you grow up, you pick up from your parents, from your aunts, uncles, and all of that. And one of them was if I don't know, if you sneeze before you leave the home, don't leave or wait, because something will happen outside.
All right.
Okay, that was
these superstitions. Yeah.
But that is the that is the kicker that I have a problem with. I mean, if the person is not leaving the home, that probably he is going to hit by truck, and let's say stay at home, and there is an earthquake.
Yeah.
So really there is no safe place, so they speak, that we are talking about. People in Canada, for instance, in this economy, they are talking about a lot of people don't have pension. They didn't save up, providing that everything based on money. Now, is it a safe place? I don't know. If you have a lot of pension money saved, are you safer than the other person? I don't know. Just before the program, I was talking to our producer. He mentioned that a famous actor died at the age of 27. So where is the safe place? What safe place are we talking about? I'm not talking about your safe place, but I'm talking about
but even that actor who, in a way, that's the opposite, because the actor who died at 27.
No,
all
I
of those
just used that
particular ones.
because it was fresh. But
when you
generally
bring those
speaking-
ones, that 27 club, right?
No, I'm not trying to focus on that 27.
No.
We had a lot of actors who died at the age of 50, for instance.
Let's just say,
or people die at the age.
No, but I'm just saying.
My mother died at the age of 49.
This is going off in a segue, I know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, if we take a look at that 27 club, those people like Hendrix, Joplin, Amy Winehouse, everybody. What was the characteristic of those people? Is they lived life absolutely to the max, right? Right? I mean, those people in particular, which is interesting about them, I'm not talking about people who died, whatever, that particular 27 club, what's very interesting about it is that it's taking what we're talking about to the absolute extreme, right? And maybe, let's just say they made a contract, right? And we were talking about this. And they made the contract that basically...
What, contract with devil?
No, who knows, maybe it's not the devil.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is they didn't do anything evil.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they made the contract to say that, look, what I want to get... this incredible high, this amazing moment of connection, this euphoria, before I die, right?
Okay.
And I don't care if I can get that, then you can take me at 27, right?
Okay.
Now, probably, I mean, when you think about it, a lot of people looking back at their mediocre lives would probably wish they had actually taken such a deal.
After the fact.
Yeah, after the fact, right? So the thing is that this willingness, this complete focus on that intensity, that pure, like I remember once, what's it?
Pure
it was-
high, you mean?
Yeah, it wasn't a high. It was, although he was high when he was talking, that was for sure. This was, who's the guy from the Doors? Chris? God, this is ridiculous that I don't know, like the
What are we talking?
yeah, Jim Morrison, right? Jim Morrison is there. I mean, of course, he's stoned in this, this particular interview or whatever. Not really an interview. It's just a clip of him talking about wanting to express some just beautiful, simple sentiment like the feeling of spring, right? And that is what. So it's not about the fame. Even the fame was actually a curse for him because, in the sense, I remember at one point he was yelling at the audience because he realized that they weren't listening to anything he was actually saying. They were just marveling at him, which is the last thing he wanted. And so, in some ways, that was his curse in a way, that he kind of realized that part of him must have wanted fame. Another part wanted that, but the part that wanted fame wins out, and then here he is trapped in his fame. And he can't really even communicate the very thing that he wanted to do now. He actually is basically in a bubble when he can't break out and communicate from this bubble. But the thing was, the desire was the thing in itself, right? This highest thing, this pure feeling, this connection to the audience, something, right? That's everything.
If this is, but it is
I'm
contradictory.
totally off topic here. I'm sorry for- yeah.
This is what you said about Club 27 and or people who want to get someone to get that highest euphoria or whatever high they get. But this contradicts
Yeah.
the earlier statement that you mentioned that outsider they don't search for this kind of things.
No, they're not searching for the high. The high comes with it. That's what I'm saying. What they're searching for is like an example. When you wrote your philosophy, right? Mm-hmm. When I wrote it,
I didn't
Okay,
know. I wrote,
yes,
I wrote it
after-
for myself.
yeah, but exactly. But when you wrote it, not even just for yourself, you write it on some level. As you're writing it, you are somehow in the possession of it. You're trying to complete it. You're
That's
trying
correct.
to bring
That's
out, right, and that's what
That's
I mean.
correct.
Then afterwards, you want to be famous, you want to be this, you want to be that. The ego clicks in,
Yeah.
sometimes, etc. But during the moment, right, that pure essential moment where you're outside time and space and you're in that creative process, right?
You're in a zone.
Well, you can call it the zone, but even calling it the zone is minimizing it. Because it's a lot more than the zone. The zone sort of assumes that, we got this certain barometer on this guy.
Not physically, mentally.
No, but even still, there's this one, there's the theory of flow management, etc., in organizational development, and they talk about the flow state as if there's, 20 different
No,
states.
not that zone. I'm not talking about.
No,
that.
but it's actually that zone that you're talking about,
Yeah.
because they talk about zone, and they talk about the fact that, the zone state's the optimal state, so this is the state we want to get everybody into in an organization so we can produce the most, blah blah blah. But to me, it's not an optimal state on the same spectrum, on a continuum. It's an entirely different consciousness. It's something that has nothing whatsoever to do with those other states. It's
unique by itself.
it's another level of consciousness where you break free. And once you've experienced this, and I think this is where manic depression comes from a lot of the time too, because those people who experience this, well, now if you have to go back to the lower consciousness, it's not exactly a picnic.
I experienced that.
Yeah, right?
Many of them. Yeah, of course.
So that's
Because
what it is.
then again, like addiction, you want to get back.
Yeah, but the thing that they want to get back to is not just some sort of mindless high. It's an actual connection to God, connection to we can give it the word God, but connection to essence, all right. So once you've experienced that, well, then the rest of life is sort of a pale imitation.
And very
especially
boring
the game.
and very boring.
Especially the game,
Yeah.
like in the sense that, you can still appreciate, let's say, a mother with her child. You can still appreciate the beauty of a babbling brook or whatever it be. But certainly the day-to-day, mundane idiocy, cupidity of the game and the stupidity of, let's say, for instance, people who have nothing better to do with their life than, let's just say, golf, and talk about golf, which is even worse than golfing, is talking about golf.
Not
which is
only
actually
that,
a long,
they praise the golf. You don't
well,
know.
then you watch golf, and then basically, those people basically are out of their minds. They're completely crazy. I mean, when you think of all the possible things they could do, and they literally have all this money now, and this is the best thing they can actually come up with.
It
and
is
they're
the
actually doing
highest
it.
level of the creativity.
And once again, joining a mutual admiration society of similar, mentally crippled individuals who are all golfing together. And I'm sure insane
And now they
asylums are
start
filled
to
with.
go to details of that.
Well, then, exactly like, the height of stupidity, because really what you could have is a golf section in a mental asylum that basically, they could just talk about golf with, and have just as much fun as these fellows who are, actually golfing. Because really, golfing is an excuse to talk about it afterwards. They have to endure the golf round so that they can talk about it.
Well, it's same as most people go traveling. I noticed that instead of enjoying the scenery, find about new findings, they keep taking photos or the cameras.
Like the Japanese tourists when they go crazy.
No, every tourist that I see, they spend more time to take photos and they record their trip than actually pay attention to what they are experiencing. And later on, I realized, why they are doing that? And then I realized, because the euphoria comes after the trip, when they sit with their friends and relatives and show the picture.
Look what I did.
And then they start to talk about the picture.
Well, okay, let's look at that euphoria. The euphoria is from the reaction of others. It's not even their own.
That is the point I am trying to
Sort
get
of kind
at.
of, it's a vicarious euphoria. In other words, they're getting off on the envy of others, because usually that's it.
That is why I started the show with the issue of the when the rest. I'm talking about the. I'm using again your terminology, troopers and the players, when they see the outsider, their reaction and their behavior toward either they reach something or accomplish something or not accomplish or fail is always the issue of the observing the other person's feeling. It's like a sex. It's like a sex. If you have a good partner, you really don't enjoy the actual issue of the intercourse. You enjoy the reaction of your partner.
Well, hopefully both, but yeah.
No. I mean, that is a given. If you get to that bedroom, you have that. That is the mechanics. But the real enjoyment comes because it has a reverse effect. If your partner enjoys what is happening, what the experience is, not only you as the other party enjoyed his or her reaction, but also have a sense of accomplishment of something.
Okay, it's very interesting. You're describing it. I remember from the movie of Janis Joplin. I forget the name of the movie. It's a documentary on her. There's one point where she's being interviewed by Don Adams, who is making light of what she's saying. It's sort of a ridiculous interview. I mean, he's being sarcastic and inane. And I guess also reflecting the fact that what she was saying would have been kind of odd to the audience. But here she was trying to convey how she experiences her music and the audience. And she was talking about the fact that when she does her music, when she's singing, the reaction of the crowd feeds back to her. And then the whole thing starts to feed upon itself, and it turns into something else.
Feed off each other. That
It's a
means
feedback loop,
yes,
right?
it's a loop. If you get more satisfaction, like a comedian, good
Well,
comedian.
even tantric sex is supposed to be that loop, really.
Yeah.
I mean, what it is, and even that, it's sort of giving it some exotic term, but it's really, without making it also esoteric, it's as simple as as what Joplin is describing is that. But in order to do that, you actually have to get past yourself. You have to be outside your bubble, because what most people are doing, probably, in sex, certainly, when we were young, is basically you're concerned with your performance. How am I doing so far? And so it's really about you. And so you don't really have the full experience when you're in your teens and early 20s. For most of us. I mean, unless you happen
Unless
to
you
be
have
really
the talent
no,
innate on you.
well, not just the talent innate, but also to, if you when you are with that one who you are absolutely in love with, okay, that's different. But for the most part, it's a kind of performance, especially if she's a beautiful girl that everybody else
Oh,
is
you're talking
after.
about just sexual encounter.
Yeah,
you
the
think.
sexual, the courting,
yeah.
but even the whole courting, it's sort of like the sexual is part of that, is that it's a performance. And it's like, how am I doing so far in relation to others and in relation to myself, in meeting my own expectations? It's all about this, but it's not really about that moment, that connection, right? Mm-hmm. It's that. And so when you take all these people that you look outside on the street these days, who have such fantastic figures, their bodies, they're so perfect, right? It's hard for me to believe that there's really anything in their heads most of the time, even when they're having intercourse, other than themselves. Because there's such a preoccupation with the self.
That is one of those questions that I always over the last decades I had difficulty to deal with when it comes to interaction between people, because in one hand, the nature of the human is to enjoy by seeing the reaction of his or her own act. Either
like
it
a
is
child with the parents,
either you are in a personal, intimate relationship sexually, or you are a performer, or you are a comedian. If the energy is not there, you do not perform well, and if you perform well, you get even you get pumped.
Absolutely.
Now
Yes.
that is one side of the human psyche. Another part is the same person. If you go to his or her private life, you see he or she despise even get involved in the certain interaction or conversation with certain other people. So it's not really about humanity. It comes back to the actual selfishness to some extent. Narcissistic part that of finding a way to feed themselves. One person earlier you considered some people go after money, probably they feed themselves with the money. More money they have, they are more satisfied. There's another person, on the other hand, who consider himself or herself as some sort of the new age kind of the warrior, and goes out and creates some sort of the environment to attract a lot of people to listen to him or her, or to pay attention to his or her performance. He enjoys it that way. So again, the concept is the same. As I was saying, that when you I mean, I don't know about you, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people say, "Boy, your thoughts are baloney. What are you talking? People are helping each other and all of that." I understand that, but again, comes back to, and I give you an example, and then I am going to ask you a question, because I mentioned the New Age earlier. A few years back, a gentleman who was from the Islam faith, we were discussing certain things, and he mentioned something along the line of oh, look at that. He has a lot of money. He's going to just spending on the pleasure of the buying, what is that? The spending on the, let's say, woman booze or something like that. I said, what do you do with your money? He said, well, I go and buy a house for my family, and I go to Hajj. And I said the same thing. You enjoy that way, he enjoys that way. It is just a different venue. You are criticizing someone else because does not use his or her money for the same venue as you like to be.
Is giving employment to prostitutes and
maybe someone enjoys going to pay to the Saudis thousands of dollars to stay there and go and have Hajj and get a satisfaction out of that under the faith or whatever reason they have. It is their prerogative. And the same, and the same token, someone else like, okay, I have a couple $1 million, like Saudis themselves, that they go to Europe and spend millions of dollars every year, or more than hundreds of millions, to the superficial, like prostitution or the call or whatever, vices. So really, it's not the issue. You see, what I have problem is, for instance, when we talk about New Age, when we have a New Age mentality that everybody is helpful to another, I don't understand, because you choose one path.
Well,
How can you just
it's
damning
like-
another path?
Well, no, this is like they're tolerant of everything but intolerance. It is a kind of another kind of tyranny, and like the Talking Head, the line in the Talking Head song that heaven is a place where nothing ever happens, and this then is this notion that nature, that animals, if they would all just get along. Then dogs wouldn't chase cats. Then they wouldn't eat birds, and like as if this kind of
Changing the rule of nature.
no. But it's also too. First of all, the arrogance, thinking that the all this lovey-dovey stuff is all that nature is supposed to be, and that they have this great insight that it's. And the thing about their insight is, I mean, it's so mundane. It's so much the same. There's no originality to it. I mean, we're all sitting here loving each other. Now, how long can you do that without basically want to blow your brains in?
It's very funny you mentioned that. I have another show before our show called Voters Echo, which is more political thing, and we were talking about the
It's
free
about love and kindness.
about the free speech, because apparently one of the ministers banned the paper without any reasoning. Just she feels that it could come in. I have a copy of the paper.
She felt compelled to,
but
yes.
that is not what I say. This guy who runs this paper, James Sears, he sometimes writes articles. He's very edgy.
Yeah.
Because you said about New Age, that in one of his articles, because as soon as you said that, he says, everyone knows that cyclists, vegans, and wine beer aficionados,
Aficionados.
well, I cannot pronounce that word, are annoying, self-righteous assholes. So, no, what you said is, now if anyone reads that, so really you get, no, you are, but the point is, if you haven't, if any,
It's a little edgy.
they more than little edge, but it is direct to the point. But the point is, and he prints it now, because the problem exactly what you said, because you see the world from one lens, from one angle. It does not necessarily means it is the only way to look at the world. Maybe you're right, maybe you are not.
The interesting irony is exactly a person like him, right? Even though he writes that, I would imagine that he would likely have, and I don't know Mr. Sears, but I would guess that he would probably have a much higher tolerance of ambiguity, right?
Oh yeah.
Then would the New Age people.
Oh, actually,
A
they,
much
ca-
actual
they
na-
call
a greater
him
natural
a left
tolerance.
and right, all
Yeah.
sort of the name, and he's just laughing at it. That is my point. You see, the level of the tolerance of human being. Even that is the question that I have not found any direction yet, as I said earlier, a couple of days. In one hand, let's say that animal lovers, let's say that cyclists. I'm not bashing them. I'm just saying
but like
they have their own way. That's
that fall
good.
under
That's
this
fine.
spectrum,
That's fine.
yeah.
That's it. Or New Age mentality. That's fine. The same person, which I said, when they go to the private bedroom, they have the same desire as the person who is against their view, has a view against of them.
Underneath the surface, yeah.
So,
Same drives,
So both
yeah.
of them, when they go with their partner, they have the same level, the same kind of the threshold, not necessarily the level of the threshold, kind of the threshold of the satisfaction that they satisfy themselves and enjoy the satisfying their partner. And yet when they come out of that private room out, immediately they have a mask out of the door. They come out of the door. Therefore, that is my tag. I am this. I am this. I'm liberal. I am conservative. I am Muslim. I am
You know
this.
what?
I'm that.
You
I'm
know-
or I'm
you know what it
cyclist. I'm
is?
vegan. I'm a,
It's actually, I was thinking, it is in a way, in the past, the drone or the trooper, was very easily identifiable as being, this tribe, this is my tribe, I like my tribe, blah, blah, blah. Rooting for your school, or that, my tribe in Africa, or, my army, whatever it be, right?
Yes.
And I do it, and that's it. Life is simple. We're the best. And I'm the best. I'm great because why? Because I'm everybody. I like everybody else in my tribe, and my tribe is better than other tribes. Why? Because, just because, right? And then they come up with some stupid reasons that they all believe, all the time, right?
providing they didn't have too many criteria to compare.
But the
Yeah,
thing would be
yeah.
the trooper doesn't really need it. Whatever the criteria is, they'll buy it, right? It's like because everybody else is buying it, so they don't think
Yeah.
about it. Okay. So the interesting thing is the new trooper in the post-nationalist world is the politically correct sort of new age type of person. This is the new tyranny. This is the new hell. So they are no less intolerant. They are no more imaginative. They are troopers to the core. It's just that now they've just changed the script.
With a much lower threshold of the tolerance.
Yeah, that's
though.
just like, for instance, when I was in Hungary, and the first time I saw these communists, who a year before were, basically, you had the communist script, which was for the good of the cause, and now they were talking about debt equity swaps, productivity, and everything like that. And it's the same people who were saying the same thing because they were actors who were just reading lines, right? Mm-hmm. And they were doing it with the same degree of conviction.
Or
as in the past.
opportunist.
Exactly. The players were opportunists, the drones were with conviction, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And as you watch that, this is just another script. And it just seems like, even animal activism and things like that, right? Yes, it's a good thing, and nobody can challenge it, and all this type of thing. And maybe the result of it is something positive. But the problem, exactly to me, which is just, and I just pick animal activism, it could be anything. The thing which is so sort of just egregious to me is the self-righteousness of those who are doing it. But it's also the smugness and self-righteousness.
Yeah, the
how
way they
good we
present it.
are.
Yeah.
And they're all feeling so good about themselves. That's
is-
what Sears, for instance, I think in particular,
He
is really
focuses on
targeting.
that.
Yeah,
Of
exactly.
Course, of course. Not a point, James Sears' point of view. However, the point is, I give you an example that you mentioned about movies and actors, the basketball player, and the musicians. I saw recently, I borrowed a video DVD from library. It's an Indian film, not Indian commercial film. It's like a kind of the very
Not Bollywood, right?
No. It was very artistic DVD called Court, and the point was a trial of a guy, and then show the life of the lawyer, prosecutor, and the judge outside of that.
So the various perspectives.
Yeah, different perspectives. And they don't have anything to discuss about the guy when they are in their own life. Lawyer has his own life, the prosecutor her own life, and the judge. But that was not the interesting part of this video that I saw. The plot which relates to us. The person they were prosecuting and keep arresting was 65 years old man, poor man, who was doing odds and ends job, like working in a print shop sometimes.
And this was in India?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
in Bombay.
Yeah.
And making living, and then likes to go around, and his hobby was to sing folklore songs. But the lyric of his songs was not acceptable by the state. Now, you have to understand, the guy has no political affiliation,
They're just
lone
folklore
wolf,
songs. Yeah.
goes around, and he had a good song, a
Yeah.
good voice, and he said, "Oh, I like to get out of this operation of the government. If I had a gun, I would go and shoot him," and this kind of thing. It was the lyric, the same lyrics that we have in the.
Okay, but I would suggest that the reason why. Oh, sorry. Finish your thought. and
No.
then that's it.
The thought was as follows: regardless, because a state which comes to the tolerance, a state which almighty resources available to them, like Canada, which they went after this paper that I told you earlier. They are afraid of one voice, and that is because of that level of the threshold of the tolerance be brought so low that.
But I think it's just like, exactly. But I think it is the individual. Like you take a look at Tiananmen Square, right?
Yes, that one person. That
Exactly.
from the
So strong because it doesn't matter when it's the crowd, when it's the one individual, that is so much stronger because that's the point. It is the one. Again, animal activism, if it was one doing it, I would applaud it. It's the groupness of it that is just maddening. If it was one who said
shifting the whole direction in a
exactly
the different
like
trend.
for instance, there's I won't say the person's name, but there's a woman who I know who's an animal activist. What's her whole life,
I know,
right?
because I
Yeah,
had
no,
Liz
exactly.
White, Leader of the
Right.
Animal Alliance, was here.
But this-
and
this-
I agree with all of the stats
Okay.
that they brought in.
But this woman, right now, she goes to marches and everything like that, and she's part of it in its organizing and participating in it. But the thing was that it's almost like the crowd has caught up with her because she's been doing it for 30 years, and she was doing it when it wasn't popular, when there's hardly anybody, and she's doing it. Okay, so that's that one individual. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely in the middle. That one individual. But then you take a look at the people around it, right? What they are is like they're just jumping on the bandwagon. It's really reflected glory. They want to feel good about themselves, and they're not going to initiate something on themselves, and so that they're going to just basically ride a coattail. And that's that's the thing. I think, to me, the only thing of any value ever is individual expression. I mean, but of its highest, not some fool basically just yelling at the wind. Is when the individual is inspired and acts upon that inspiration. That's when magic happens.
The
Yes.
authenticity of the
Absolutely.
act you are talking about, rather than just trying to copy for your own.
Oh no! The moment it becomes like a gesture, it becomes an act, so that you'll be remembered in history, etc. The moment it's because you're going to feel good about yourself because you're fulfilling some sort of obligation, it just becomes so poor.
And
No,
it is like being diluted. The whole.
Diluted, yes.
The whole process become diluted, and I was probably I should one day bring that.
It weakens it.
Experience that I had a experiment a few years back that I used to get the bubbles like a lab tubes or the clear glass, and put different colors,
Yeah.
including the water, no color, on color, and then red, blue, and so on. And I used to experiment and say, okay, when you were born, you eat this like water, you have nothing. Then someone comes and drops a couple of the red, that is the ideology of the, let's say, religion. Another one says a couple of the blue, that is your culture, and so on, so on, so on, so on. And then that water becomes so diluted, and you cannot bring it back to the clear unless you put a Javex on it or something that, very harsh kind of the measurement. And that was the way that I was explaining what our governments do usually. They are trying to
Not
get
just our governments, but they're one of the culprits.
Well, of course, people participate in that.
No, I don't mean that.
Yeah.
But any institutions
Any
are doing
institution.
that. Yeah.
What is that? For instance, I'm using the government, for instance, because just I had that to the other show. But when the government comes and tries to put every single initiative with a very hefty money, taxpayers' money associated to them, to clear that diluted society, cannot succeed. It's just it's adding another colors.
Oh no,
another
the
shade of
government has no intention of clearing it either.
Yeah,
they want to keep it that way.
But the way they say it, the point is how they say it. The same way it goes to the groups like animal lovers, vegans, and all of that. That's fine. The concept by itself is that clear water. The moment you bring all sorts of the ingredients, and then you have a rally that
The overlays.
rally that you have. Oh, now the Communist Party coming in to rally about that, or liberals come to do that, or some other groups go in
Which is ultimately the game. It
to
becomes
dilute the purity and get rid of the authenticity.
and this is it. Like really, I mean, take a look at I would say this is true of everything. You look at Christianity, look at perfect example. Starts off as something pure. Christ is there. Christ dies. Let's assume that all of this is true, right? And it all happened exactly as it laid out. So it dies. So then what happens is the religion was not created then. Christ died a Jew.
It was an event that happened then.
It was an event that happened within the Jewish culture,
and then
religion.
200 years later,
Exactly,
someone-
Paul. No, this is what's critical. Paul, somebody who I don't think, as far as I know, didn't even know Jesus, had no direct connection to Jesus. I'm in fact almost sure of this. Paul of Tarsus, who was
which is Saint Paul,
yeah,
Saint Paul, that
the tax collector,
yeah.
etc. Right?
Yeah.
He's the one who was, an extremely, tireless, brilliant organizer who creates the whole religion. And really, then, you have the Romans who then co-opt it, take it over at the Council of Nicaea. They make it the national religion, take the guts out of it, etc.
300 years later.
Well, 300, exactly. And as all of this progresses, by the time you have that Council of Nicaea, there is so little left of the original religion, and basically all it is
Or the cause.
of anything. Now, instead of being the radical, now it becomes the status quo. It becomes literally the very opposite of what it was. It was an outsider religion. He was an outsider. I mean, he's the ultimate outsider, one could say, but here's an outsider. The people were outsiders, and what did they do? They make it so that anybody who would be an outsider would have been a stranger to the Christian religion by the 5th century when Constantine, etc., made it, and when he kept the games going. Of course, now they weren't killing Christians, they were killing heretics or who knows what, right? But the point was that they just knew, here's basically a game, we co-opt it, and once we co-opt it, it really doesn't matter. So the same thing with communism, but let's say you had Marx, and then along comes Lenin. And
The first Lenin, the brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Not John Lennon, but the first Lenin. That's right, Lenin. Yeah. So you had Lenin. So Lenin basically sort of looks at this thing and says, because it wasn't working. They had a lot of social experiments in the States, etc., and socialism in its pure form wasn't working. So they came to the conclusion, well, why is it not working? Well, we need new humans. We need new people because they're contaminated. So we're going to which ironically is the same thing that the New Age is now saying, that we need new people. So what happens?
So they want to get rid of the diluted one and create a new one to dilute it again.
Oh, exactly. But the new one, in fact, being far worse than anything that we possibly could be imagined, because it's like it's now the new one is not pure. The new one is like purely contaminated. It's like just absolutely pure viral strain.
It reminds me of a movie, James Bond, Moonraker. When the villain,
Yeah.
he keep stealing these shuttles to the space shuttles,
Right.
and then they send James Bond to go and chase after it to find out what is that. And by the end of the movie, you find out that the villain is gathering the pieces, couples from the air that he thinks, or he examined them or test them that they are pure and all of that. They take them with this space shuttle to a space center in outside of the space, and plan to send the chemical to just kill the people. So bring the pure, but it doesn't work that way, because the nature of human by itself is not pure.
Well, another thing too would be genetically what we would have is one strain, and so the one strain would eventually get contaminated and die off. So it would be the best way for the human race to be completely terminated is to basically narrow the gene pool down to that one strain, like the same with the Nazis.
Even that's subjective to the person who narrowed it down.
Oh no, of course it'll always be. I mean, if it's blonde and blue-eyed, if it's this, if it's that. So what happens is they'll always, identify a few attributes, and they're going to basically say, okay, now these are the attributes that we want, and then they're going to basically just hammer it. So we're going to get those attributes, and in the process, of course, create absolute hell. And it's just like each successive version is even worse than the last.
Which
you know?
brings us back to the point that we start. People, in one hand, they claim that they want to be helpful or they want to be helpful to others. On the other hand, the same human being is trying to segregate their tribes or their race or their clan or whatever from the others, and become very intolerant of anything is said or done that they think oppose their clans.
Oh, absolutely. And before it was on the basis of, that, okay, if I'm, let's just say I'm black, then everybody who's black is normal to me because I grew up and I'm being told that, blacks are superior or whatever. Like, let's just say I happen to come from such a culture, right? 1,000 years ago, wherever there's such a culture existed. And then, so somebody, just by virtue of the fact of not being black, of course, is now a demon or whatever it is, because this is
or lower grade.
Yeah, no, lower grade, exactly, because it just is equally arbitrary. It could come from the blacks or the whites or whatever. Okay, so it goes that way. But now what we have is we don't have race because we're above that. Now we have their spiritual level. Now we have their belief system. In other words,
they creating
exactly.
the
It's
new
something.
level.
It's equally arbitrary. It just happens to be a different attribute. Before it was actually simpler. At least it was skin color. It was kind of like it was a
like
more
5
obvious.
or 6 different
Whereas-
color and
yeah, and that was it. This is good. That's bad. Whereas now it's equally arbitrary. It's just basically it's another measure, and the thing, yeah, and it's just more of the same.
And we are getting close to the end of the program.
And once again, no resolution
no
whatsoever.
resolution. We have to continue.
But
that.
now this is emphatically no resolution.
But that is very interesting. You said about the just race. Even in the religion, even when they create a new religion, let's say Christianity, the example that you brought in, and after 300, 500 years, they started to make it as a standard of the living. And yet, even that by itself didn't sustain, and within 100 or 200 years, it started to branch out to the completely different divisions. Like a
course.
Protestant,
course.
Baptist. Even that by itself, the whole idea, no matter how restrict, how good or how bad it is, it cannot sustain itself. And that is why the element is culprit is a human by itself. Well, I am cynic. What can I do? Thank you very much for joining us. Anything for the final thoughts before I go?
Well, I have lots to say, but we'll save it for the next show.
We'll save it for the next show. Thank you for being with us this Monday, June 20th of the 2016. And please tune in next week, same place, same time. Good night.